Hello and welcome to another episode of Trade Talks Unlocking the Experience. I'm Kayla McGowan, editor-in-chief for R&R, and today I have a very special guest and friend of mine, Klark Brown. I could talk about him and give you some background, but this episode is all about him, so please welcome Klark.
Hello, Kayla.
How are you? Welcome to Trade Talks.
Thank you. And hello to Restoration Nation that's watching this or whatever part of our industry you're into. Maybe it's not just restoration, but thanks for having me and thanks for anyone that's sitting with us for a little while today.
Yes, you're very welcome. We've got to talk a couple of times on video and passing, and it's always about what's going on in the industry. But this time we're going to talk about you. You and I had this conversation. It's really hard to talk about ourselves, right? It's just not one of those things that we're like super excited to do. So, for those who may not know your story or really know a lot about you other than the present Clark, how did you get into our industry?
I lost a bet. No, I'm kidding. I thank you, Kayla. And talking about yourself, if you're not intentional on why you're doing it, it can feel awkward. So I'm going to reframe it about why I'm doing what I do, and hopefully some people will want to do it with us. I got into this business in 2001. That was when I was like launching into it. I fell into it. So I have a past, a bunch of other businesses that I've owned, but my family's business was dry cleaning. So I'm going to speed through dry cleaners and laundries were what we had as our family business growing up, small East Texas town. It kind of grew to a bigger business. And I went on to go to college, swore that I was going to do something besides dry cleaning. And look what I did. I ended up in dry cleaning again, but I just used what I knew. But I worked for a few big organizations for a couple of years because I'd only worked for family. I said, what does it look like outside of that realm? And I started a bunch of my own, somewhere in Texas, somewhere in Florida, and just kind of didn't. I'm not a business flipper, but I built them, sold them because to me, it's always a next thing. Build it, didn't need me anymore. A little boredom kicks in. And in my business, I was in Houston, Texas, and I had dry cleaners. And anyone that was watching that was around Texas will remember that's kind of where the emergence of the mold frenzy or the mold industry kind of exploded. There were some lawsuits, there was some farmers insurance, and there became an abundance, Kayla, of homes that had mold remediation that was going on, and they were at that time anything in the house that might have even been in the same atmosphere had to be cleaned or discarded. Well, the dry cleaning and the clothes, all of your regular brands and Servpro, Service Master, Cotton, all those guys took the dry cleaning and were bringing, or eventually would call and ask us as a retail storefront cleaners, can you come help us with these clothes? Sure. Well, from a business that's used to doing about, three pairs of pants and five shirts for someone, now you've got five members of a family with a closet full, and you've got thousands of pieces and comforters and drapes. You're like, that all began to overwhelm our production for the public. And we started branched off into a different division that handled what I call the fire and water and the wholesale. Then eventually that became so busy and profitable and helpful that we sold our retail and just did that. That business was bought and sold by a large network. And so there I am, did not want to jump back into that again. And I'm like, what do I do? And someone came knocking from a large restoration company in Houston and said, hey, do you want to come on this side of things? And first I said no, and then I said yes, and got into disaster recovery in 2002 when I officially left Houston and drove to Memphis, Tennessee to a series of fires. And there was a lot of what did I get myself into? But I say that every year. And I'm always like, man, I'm so lucky to be in this. But that's how I kind of morphed into it from dry cleaning to this. And what I'll do to connect all of it is both sides serve people. So I can always say every business I've ever had has been a servant company, which means dry cleaning, it helped people look better for their job, their family, their whatever, to improve their career and serve the people they've got. And then, of course, we know about disaster recovery and restoration. But that's how I got into it. In Houston. And then, of course, I've lived all over. I've traveled the world, mostly all commercial. And when I started my own company, We were commercial, but we would do a few residentials that were usually associated with our clients. So I understand the residential world. It's much different than commercial, different client type and mindset. But that's how I got into it in 2002, long time ago.
I was gonna say that's very interesting. I always just thought you came into the industry. I didn't know the side about dry cleaning, so I too just learned something new about Klark, which is really cool.
Yeah,
Because that's definitely we talk about how people enter this industry, and a lot of times you either are born into it, you stumble upon it, or you're in another sub-industry of
yeah,
the industry we have that has no name, right? Where restoration is a sub-industry, cleaning is a sub-industry, and so I think it's interesting to kind of talk about the dry cleaning side of things, HVAC, because they do feed into our industries, right? So it's cool to
yeah,
hear
yeah. I didn't come from construction. While I could understand construction, I would definitely not. You would not want me to build your home. I don't have. I go to the ICRC events. I go to the experience and RA, and I'm surrounded by second generation technician type of people. I'm just thinking of our good friend Craig Powers. He knows so much about how this science of this works that I feel like an idiot. I don't have that side of the deep entrenched technical knowledge. I'm more lean towards Kayla, the human side of it. We have a client that needs us more than anything, and nothing else matters. And we have the ability through the science, but also through the experience of knowing how to handle a little bit of a chaotic, unpredictable situation because we know what it can become. So I'm not your typical restorer as I'm not triple master. I'm not master at anything except barbecue.
that.
So I'm a little different. So I leave that to the people that are, but I learn from them just like you do. I mean, I'm just fortunate to uh, get to be around people like Craig and Blaine Perry and Doug Weatherman and just all of them. They're just smart people doing really, really cool things to improve the science of it.
Yeah, and I would definitely say you touched on something that's extremely important in this industry is we all have our different specialties, right? A lot of it's people are technical, science based. There's a human aspect of things, there's a process aspect, there's operations. And so when we talk about this, it's very rare that you meet people that have everything in a package, right?
Oh
That's
yeah,
it's
yeah,
very rare, but that's what makes our industry so unique, right? Because like if you were faced with a certain situation, you'd know, oh, I know this person, I can call them and they can handle this part of the project and I'll handle the humanization side of the project. So that's what's really cool about our industry. I will definitely say there's so many people that you get to meet that, like, to your point, either they have like the technical science, maybe they're data driven, maybe they're marketing driven. It's cool to see that because to your point, we get to learn from people every day. I feel like that's such a cool aspect of my job is to get to talk to different people from all over our sub industries and just kind of learn what their specialty is and maybe what I didn't know. I mean, it we
yeah.
don't know everything, right? And so that's the beautiful thing about this industry as well is just being able to know, hey, I don't know it all, but I know people who know a lot more than me, so let me surround myself with them. And it's great. You mentioned some great people there. It's hard to list everybody, right? It's like there's just
Oh yeah.
great people, but the people who come to the top of mind is like, you have history with them. You've worked with them for quite some time. And so that's a cool thing too. And those names are very familiar in this industry. You didn't name anybody that's not known, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So we've talked a little bit about your history and who you know, why you love this industry, but what are you talking about at the experience for those who are listening and haven't really dove into the agenda just yet?
Yeah, so specifically, and thank you for giving me a place to talk about it on a different type of platform. So, uh, in our company, Restoration Advisors, that I started many, many years back after I sold my business, look around at problems. I'm just kind of a problem solver, and I see that we were having, and everyone that's watching, if you're in this industry, you're going to know that getting paid on time, navigating the changing ecosystem, all of that has been incredibly challenging for the last couple of years. So I'm like, what's at the core? What are we missing? And I was seeing a lot of people, Kayla, that would at the very end of the job wonder why they were having a hard time getting paid. But then when you would talk to the client, whether it was commercial or residential, you would find out that we just left a whole lot of the vernacular and a lot of the conversation off at the beginning because we kind of were looking towards the insurance as the client or a big part of it. So my topic is called client onboarding. It's certainly not trademarked. It's certainly not just specific to our industry. The Ritz-Carlton, Airbnb, Chick-fil-A, everybody onboards their client. And I have a whole program about that. And what that just means is creating a process in your company, in your workflow of how you internally and externally and out loud and in silence, and that means language on your website, who we are, what we do, what we're great at, but then also what we won't do and what we should not do. It's a kind of a controversial subject, and I'm glad to be talking about it publicly because it feels like to a lot of people that it's anti-carrier. We're not going to deal with your insurance company. That is not what we say. What we say is, as a home service provider, our all of our training and certifications are built around solving your problem: fire, water, mold, construction, whatever it is. Every moment that we spend on something other than that, which some of it's required, administrative, etc., every minute that we do that takes away from us focusing on that. Like if I'm a chef, if I'm out in the back worried about the pest control, I don't get to cook your food, right? So client onboarding is really a transparency up front. Being, I have a saying that I say that clarity is kind, vague is cruel. When it's vague to the customer who's already high anxiety, how about if you just tell them, saying, listen, let me give you a 5 minute walkthrough. We're going to do some demo. We're going to do some cleaning, put some equipment. Here's what it's going to sound like. It's going to be a little bit loud in that room, but we're going to put containment up, blah, blah, blah. We're going to update you every day. You're going to know where we are with cost and pricing, no surprises. We're going to give you a chance to make decisions based on what to do next. We're going to take your dishwashing machine offline. So now you've got to figure out how to wash dishes. I'm not just going to do that and tell you that's what it is. So onboarding is that, but it does get back around to, but we're going to invoice you have insurance. And I'm so glad that you do, because insurance likely will pay for all or some of it. I don't know how much. I can't control that. But what I do know is that we have priced our work, our quality, high trained technicians. We've priced to put the best people in place. But what hurts is when we don't get paid. When we don't get paid for the work that we do, we can't help more people. That is it for me. If I want to be help more people, I've got to have a business that has great cash flow, receivables, no discounts, no arguing, spending time. I'm a big fan of Kayla. Is when I go to businesses all the time, there is an owner or leader or leadership team that kind of trains their team inadvertently to be defensive and adversarial, stand behind it, blah blah blah. But we're here to help people, but then we've got to switch to a mode where we have to be defensive. And I just said, let's just not be defensive. Let's just say, I'm sorry you don't agree with my price, and maybe you have some internal State Farm guidelines that you don't pay for that. I understand it. I have a business and I have things I don't think, but we had to do that. We had to test for asbestos. We always clean with a supervisor there because we don't leave people without safety and security of having a supervisor. So it really, I can't do the whole program, and I'm picking two or three of our most powerful actionable takeaways that you can go back to your business and rethink about, well, are we as transparent with our customers? Are we properly setting the expectation? Because I think that expectation is kindness. It's when you're getting on an airplane and they tell you that we're taking off in 10 minutes. When we get 38,000 feet, we're going to level off and we're going to hit some bumpy air about 10 minutes after that. All of a sudden, everyone's now prepared for the bumpy air instead of it just being, oh my gosh, are we going down? I think that those things that we know that we keep from people are the things that make us different and stand out and remarkable in our business. So the whole onboarding is just to make the specialist at what we do shine out like we want to, and have that sense of pride. And you did everything, get that 5-star review. You're going to come up with some arguments about payment at the end. All that's going to happen. But you've already told the customer, says, I can't be part of that. I'll help you through it is what I can legally. but I can't absorb it. I can't wait to be paid 60 days because my staff, they've got to get paid. We've got to pay the bills and the grocery, the rent, and the training and everything. So that's in a nutshell what client onboarding. But I look at it, it's a kindness, it's a gift, and what makes you better at what you do. Because anyone can go dry a building, not anyone. Many people can dry or clean or reconstruct a building. But to have a customer that talks about you to other people in their community, at their church, that's what we all want. Cut down your marketing spend by having your customers be your highest referral source. This is one of those components that does that. And it's something that just makes sense when people hear it. They're like, how did we get away from that? We just got distracted. We just got a little diverted from offensive, like helping, to being feeling like we're all criminals until we're proved that we're not. So I want to kind of suspend that disbelief for a lot of people and prove through clients, through people I know in this industry, that take that stance and say, listen, if your adjuster calls, we'll contact you. They're having some kind of argument. I'll keep you in the loop. But if it's something we did wrong, we're going to fix it. If it's not, we're going to have to stand our ground because it matters. So that's kind of what the onboarding is about. But Kayla, what I'm glad to do, and I'll let you talk now, but it has like a, when I am online or on videos or our disaster podcast or our podcast, we're talking about it in a short little blurb in everyone's attention span of 14 seconds. It sounds like you're just saying, F the man. You're not. You're just saying, I love my customer. Thank you for calling me. But here's what we do best. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an adjuster. I can't act as one.
Hmm.
I can do this. I can do this better than they can. So everyone stays in their lane and this is ours. And it gives us an excuse to not spend our efforts over on that. And also a customer says, well, you said what was going to happen. You're exactly right. That's what happened. And I appreciate you standing up for yourself and for me. And what it does is it empowers the customer to remind them. Onboarding is all about reminding the customer that they're in charge of everybody. They are the customer, that they are paying the insurance company, they're paying us. If we do something out of place, they can hold us accountable. And I expect them to do that equally to all parties. And that's what client onboarding is. It's a real strength, but it's also an understanding of compassion.
I would definitely say that's one of the most important things too, because it leads to transparency and building trust altogether. I also think too, we have three parties, if not sometimes more parties involved when
Oh
there is
yeah.
something going on. And so if everybody has their hands in the cookie jar, it makes it chaotic. And then people are starting to blame each other and it just becomes a big mess. But if we're talking about staying in our lane, also understanding when to bring in the other party, right? Like if there's an insurance question, that should actually go to the insurance. If you
Right.
have restoration or reconstruction or dry out questions, that comes to us, right? So I think that we're also putting the responsibility and accountability on the right parties, right? It
It is.
also yeah, and I would also say it also opens the door for better lines of communication between the restorer and the adjuster and the consumer, right? Like I think it's if you have to talk about why you did something some way, it's a constructive conversation. It's not a defensive conversation. And when the consumer knows what to ask, there's not a lot of fear at that point, right? You're already, like you said, tensions are already high when you're going into somebody's home or business, and they're flustered because their life is interrupted or their business is interrupted. The last thing they want to do is get caught in the middle of something or feel like they have to,
Right.
argue or whatever the case may be, which is really huge in the process because if there's no communication or there's a breakdown of communication, it slows down the entire process for everybody.
You said the word trust, and I think that is. And let's all admit this for just a moment. You've got a homeowner who has had XYZ insurance company for 14 years, USAA, State Farm, and this is their first law. They probably trust their insurance company more than they do us. We are a random, maybe semi-familiar business in town that they found from Google or they saw our trucks, but they don't know us, but they do know the other side. While they may not, they may know that down deep, the insurance is geared towards paying less. Everybody knows that, but maybe that won't happen to me. So you've got to position yourself as there's going to be a lot of complicated words, conversations, understandings of language. There's going to be a lot of things that happen that we didn't know. Like we're going to try to save your floors, but then we got to pull them up because we can't save them. We've got to talk through that. But I want your trust because when those things happen, they will all follow a cycle of everything you said has been for a reason. I understood, you slowed down. And I think those are some of the things that onboarding causes you to be intentional and slow down and not be the disaster after the disaster. Like the water's been shut off, the fire's been put out. It's horrible, but it doesn't have to be fixed today. We can now take our time and be safe and be smart, customer comfortable, make sure the adjuster and insurance are clear on what's going on so they can do their side of the business. You're right. I recently stayed in an Airbnb, and I mentioned that earlier. Before you travel, immediately when you book, you get some communication, whether it's through their app or email. Before you go, there's the good ones. This is the Wi-Fi. These are where you park. This is the steps. Be careful for the third step. There's a great restaurant down the road. So all this is their onboarding to improve your experience besides what you're going to do yourself, because they now have said, we know enough about our property. The AC doesn't like it on days that are cold or whatever. There's a coffee maker there. It's got 3 different kinds of coffee and hot tea. That's onboarding. And then the rest of my trip is now set in place. And so I think that we have the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with that. And I think it's, again, kind of peeling back layers and kind of going back to the basics, right? Because this should be part of your basic operations. It really should be. And so let's
Yeah.
take a moment to really go in optimistic, right? We don't know everything. People are in an era of instant gratification. They want to be able to understand things. And so it means we have to take the time to put in the right processes and procedures and communications to make sure that the consumer has peace of mind, because to your point, we're consumers too. And so if we appreciate onboarding, our consumers also appreciate that. And that's one thing that I
Yeah,
often say is, don't forget, we're consumers too. So if we
we
have
are.
questions or we want certain things, the expectations for our customers should be the same. If we expect things to be laid out a certain way or receive a confirmation, or when you go to the airport, there's a process in place, right? They onboard us when we're flying everywhere we go.
Always.
So we need to make sure that we're doing our due diligence for the consumers that we serve every day, because most times we're seeing them on one of their worst days, if not their worst days, right? And so, how do we provide that peace of mind, that trust, that transparency? And it's going back to onboarding, right? You have to give them all the information at the front. So by the time you're in the middle and towards the end, everything that you talked about happened. Or they were prepared for something that could have happened and it just didn't, it just worked out, which is really important.
Yeah. Our program is much bigger, and it goes into things like the onboarding when done right. And we have a little bit of a script. I think everyone can modify it. And most entrepreneurs are like, I'm going to do it my way. But you're asking questions that kind of identify what kind of customer, what triggers this customer, what are they most worried about? Because I'm over here thinking it's about money, but it's about health, it's about time. So you can onboard your customer, which while you're talking, you're listening. We can all talk about active listening, picking up cues about the one thing that they're most concerned about. So I can divert and communicate to my team, either in your CRM. Customer is concerned about noise. And I've had that. I've had customers who noise is most important. So less equipment, even if it takes longer, put up more containment, whatever you have to do, even though it's more expensive, it means a lot to us. And these are how we deliver. And then again, people say, I liked KB Disaster because they listened, they did some, I made them work for it. They jumped through hoops, but they did it. And they were very polite and kind and patient. And that's the customer that's going to tell other people about you. So it's not rocket science, and it gets difficult when we feel like everything we do is about us, but it's just about the customer, and they will be your hero. And I have a customer right now, Kayla, and he made a post in one group and tagged us, or tagged Toby, because Toby's his coach. So and so insurance, maybe it was Allstate, I don't remember. $8,000 job. I'm kind of rounding off the numbers. $8,000 job. They had onboarded the customer properly, saying we invoice you, we give you a number up front, a ROM, a rough order number, and then we communicate daily on how we're getting to that number. If we have to go over, you'll know why, blah blah blah, or it's gonna be less. Um, they did that the whole way, communicated with them. Adjuster was on the email every day. Everything was great. Last day or last week, invoice goes to the customer and a check shows up, or an email from the carrier. We're paying half that, $4,200. The customer says, no, my contractor I've signed a contract that they are at $8,200, $8,100, and that's what I'm owed per the policy language because they told me to read my. So we empower them without getting in there and saying, "Go fight." Just say, "Don't get taken advantage of, or don't be confused, and don't be a victim." And it there was some other back and forth. We don't, why do they check for asbestos? Your house was built in 2001. They said, well, they showed us the OSHA paperwork that says all houses, all building, aka bury your ice, right?
Hmm.
So these things were like, adjuster, okay, check in full, sent. It did not take time from the contractor. They were able to be on the next job helping the next people. And that's all I want is I want us to do what we really desire and what fires us up the most and not what burns us out. And
Yeah.
our industry is kind of stuck in we're in a very contentious negative mindset right now, going through the evolution of insurance and it's changing and evolving. And we as tradespeople, all we want to do is help people. And then all these other changes become, it feels like we're doing something wrong. And I tell every restorer, if you're doing it right, you're not doing it wrong.
Hmm.
Don't let anyone tell you that you are. So I'm really big in power of the restorer so they can help who they're supposed to help. But it's been fun. It's a shift. Change is hard no matter what industry. Um, Blockbuster doesn't exist because it wouldn't change.
Yep.
Um, Change is scary. But the more you see other people doing it and talking about it, it's permission. It starts to make more sense, and we move into it. But that's kind of what we're currently on right now. I'm speaking there. We're hosting a live class in November in Virginia for people who want to do this hands-on and bring their admin team and stuff. So we're having a lot of fun with it because it's making a big difference for a lot of people's AR, their receivables, their cash flow, they're keeping their profit instead of giving it away,
Hmm.
and they're able to convert that into better training, better tools, more equipment, more marketing, just all of that. So it creates a success ladder when you have cash, because our businesses are airplanes that require cash and fuel.
They definitely do, right? And we have a lot of people
Yeah.
in the field, our work is very manual.
Oh
We
yeah.
have people in the field using their hands, their minds, their bodies every day. And so, unfortunately,
Yeah.
cash is king, and we have to make sure that we evolve to your point. Like Blockbuster's not
Yeah.
around. Netflix is because they switched from disc to streaming. So I
Yeah.
definitely think that we're no different. We're going to continually face change and evolution, with just everything, the lay of the land, consumer wants, needs, policies changing, that's just life. And we just have to figure out how to evolve.
Yeah.
And we're in a service industry, right? So we're always going to be essential. It's just making sure that we evolve and adapt
Yeah.
faster than what we're
Yeah.
doing right now, right? And so I think this
You,
plays a huge
well,
role.
Kayla, another change, Kayla, is it's even to cut you off, is one big change is our staffing. Culture is way more important than a lot of people in this industry used to give credit for. There's a lot of people, we're talking about different types of business services in our industry, is a lot of them focus on culture. Well, if I'm profitable and I get to bill a great rate that's equal to the ROI that I give, then I can now offer uniforms
Mhm.
and a better building that might create a better atmosphere, maybe some benefits. The companies that we look up to, they have found a way to know what they're worth, charge for it, and then in our saying in our business, and hopefully yours is, the more we make, the more we can give.
Yeah.
Business can be, if you're mission focused, it can be generosity. You cannot live from an empty cup. Well, if you're profitable and you don't let anyone take what's rightfully you've earned and your team deserves, and stand your ground, you're not putting your customer in a bad spot. You're putting the carrier or whoever into an accountability position to hold their end of their promise up, because we did our part. We did everything we said we would do and more. And so I like to just have a different conversation with people saying, what would you do if you did not have 200, 600,000 of work in the, not in the bank, it's in their bank. And what would you do with it? Well, I would improve my marketing. I would fix vehicles that we can't get to jobs on time because of the vehicles. And I would hire more people. And I was like, well, you're already doing what it takes to do it. Just now collect it. And it's
Yeah.
not evil. It's business, and it's generous. And business has been around for thousands of years, and it's not greedy. there are greedy people, but if you're not one of them, don't label yourself as greedy. Label yourself as quality and valuable, and don't short yourself because the community doesn't need it. Your customers don't need that. So
100%.
I'm excited. I hope everyone comes to this event. I'm going to be giving some gifts away for free. Kayla, anyone that's going to be there, I love to give. And everyone that attends and comes into that session is going to be granted a pretty great, surprising selection of things that I just think you can take away and not just the presentation, but physical gifts. So I'm not talking about koozies or Yetis. This is something better. But
Useful,
yeah,
useful stuff,
useful.
what
I
you're
mean,
saying.
listen, stuff that doesn't get put in the bottom drawer, stuff that stays and you talk about and maybe give it away once you're finished with it. It's something tangible that you can give to somebody else.
Yeah.
So,
That's the
so
stuff that's important. And I would definitely say we've talked about a ton. Oh, look at his books there.
yeah,
Uh,
everybody's gonna get books in the thing. But yeah, that's who I am, Kayla. You asked me to talk about me. That's the stuff that I like to talk about. Is if I can help the people that I like to do well do better, we never have to market. They market for us, and then we get more business, and we get to meet more people, and we can help more people. And I don't know anything that's more rewarding than that. I can't think of anything.
Honestly, there's not. And I would definitely say marketing, there's so many layers, but the best form of marketing is verbal. It's your customers or your colleagues. It's that verbal human to human interaction. I mean,
Mm,
yes, retargeting and emails and all those things are beautiful and they work, but that human to human interaction, we know we're consumers again. If I have a question, I'm like, maybe we should try a new restaurant. Yeah, sure, I'm going to go to Google, but I'm going to ask people, hey, have you eaten here? What do you think? Right? This is no different. Our consumers are going to do the same exact thing. And,
yep,
let's make sure we're giving the best top quality service, peace of mind, transparency, communication, all of those things, so that when there does come a time and your customer is saying something, it's positive and you're actually getting business from it, right? Because we know negative and positive both have talking points. And so, to Clark's point, the reason why he's doing this is so that you have that positive interaction from the beginning, so that you're building your clientele, but also your consumers can go and say, "Hey, Susan, I had a water heater problem too, and I used KB Restoration and they came and they helped me and they communicated the whole time." That person, Susan, is now going to call KB Restoration, right? They're not going to even look anywhere else because their friend had a great interaction. And so they're going to take that word of mouth over anything that they find on Google, social media, and that's
yeah.
really powerful, right? Um, Before we go, I do want to throw in something here. What is a fun fact about Clark that many people may not know about you?
Um, fun fact.
Yeah. Like
Um,
maybe you don't talk about this. Maybe it's something that you are passionate about. I think you mentioned you're a master griller. Maybe a lot of people don't know that
yeah.
about you.
So fun fact. I'll tell you one that always shocks people, and I don't know why, but um, well, I went to school with Matthew McConaughey, so that's always fun. So he's a friend. But in 2000, I was not married at the time. I dated a celebrity musician, a female. um, but that's kind of fun. I guess it was wild for me. I fun fact, I don't know. I mean, I work, and when I'm not working, I'm working on ideas for work. But I do love I do love barbecue. But fun fact is I travel this country on my own dime, meeting people that like. So don't be surprised if I ever pop up in your town, find you online, and ask you, say, hey, I'm in Seattle or I'm in Toledo. Let's go to lunch or something like that. So I don't know if that's fun or not, but I don't find myself fun. That's probably the short thing. But I do like to barbecue, and a lot of people in the industry are also barbecue. And there's a big group of us, Kevin Dooley and I, and a lot of other people trade like, what are you cooking this weekend and stuff. But I think a lot of people do that. I don't know if that's fun, but I think it's very common. But it's certainly translated into our business. We've always fed our employees, and gathering around food really does that. But uh, that's that's probably all. I don't have anything else that would probably surprise anyone. I'm kind of boring. I'm kind of a boring guy.
I was
Always
gonna say you're
looking for
normal. Like
reasons.
that's the other thing is, right? Is like we're normal people. So like fun facts to
Yeah.
us may not
I don't know
be as
about I don't
fun.
know about that. Some people will say I'm not normal, but
You're your
I'm
own
definitely
normal.
I'm a unique type. I believe I'm very, you know what my uh passion is, Kayla, is freedom. And I don't mean just patriotic. I mean just being able to create an environment where I get to go explore what I could do next that might scare me. I went down and did some, it was different, nonprofit work and humanitarian work in Texas. I couldn't have done that if I didn't have a business that allowed me to do that. I would have been landlocked and stuck here. And so that's why I'm passionate about it. But no, nothing fun. Sorry, I wish I could wow everybody in the audience. And if I think of something about Vegas, I'll bring it up on stage and talk about something fun. But I'm kind of ordinary and an introvert.
Yeah.
That might surprise some people. Actually, if I would tell you, maybe it's not fun, but I'm a pretty dark or deep introvert, or maybe some people say ambivert. I speak a lot in public. I have podcasts. I'm always online somewhere. But I can only do that for so long. And I just kind of like have to go inward a little bit. And I think a lot of us have that. We have bursts of what you're passionate about. But people like, hey, you want to go to dinner? And I'm like, yeah, sure. An hour before, and it's like, hey, we're going to cancel. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, I would definitely say too, like a couple of things that you said, right? Really humanize. I think that's a really fun fact for everybody, like the humanization side of things. Like, you, Kevin Dooley, and a couple of other people actually having conversations that aren't really industry related. It's like, hey, what are you grilling? What are you using? That to me is very humanizing. And I think that oftentimes when we meet people, we see them for the professional self. And you know, it carries over into your business. Yes, you feed your staff and things like that, but you also are comfortable enough with your peers to talk about things outside of industry related stuff, which is
Oh,
one
yeah.
thing that I really enjoy about this industry because hearing that type of stuff is so refreshing, right? Like, oh, hey, we're talking about what we're grilling, or hey, maybe you guys are sports fans or whatever the case may be. But I will also say too, you sharing that you travel on your own dime shows how much love you have for this industry, right? It's a passion for you. And so you take time out of your business, out of your life to go and learn and see other people across the country, which is really cool because not many other people can say that. And so I think that's a fun fact personally, even though it seems a little boring maybe to you. I think that's a fun fact. I think that's really cool to hear how much you really do still give back to our industry, whether it's time, money, thoughts, ideas. I think that's still really huge of you. And most people may not even really know that about you.
Kayla, when I do things, and it always feels, we were talking before we started recording, talking about me feels, whenever it feels promotional, like I'm talking about me, and it feels selfish and ego driven, and I'm very sensitive to ego. I actually don't love ego, but when you're doing something like, we had our own little chat on video when we were in Texas in Kerrville. What you're doing is you're exempling, you're showcasing an opportunity to other people that may have a means or the time or the money or the energy to do so, but they're sitting there saying, I want to help, but I don't know what to do next. But when you see an example and when you see other people going to do something, you're like, I could do that. And I think that would bring me a lot of joy and pleasure. So I actually draw inspiration from people that text, email, call me, or I see them and I say, man, I saw you do something that gave me the permission. I saw you write a book and then I wrote a book. Or I saw you do a podcast and now I'm doing more videos on my business. And it's been great. But sometimes people just need a little courage that someone like them is doing something that they like to do. And that's how I have gotten the energy to do. I've watched other people do stuff that I'm like, well, if they can, I can, right? Why not? And
Yeah.
I want to say that most of our industry are givers. They just don't always think of giving their time and energy. It has to be for their business. And sometimes just getting away and getting around other people that don't talk about deductibles and contracts. Sometimes you're like, wow, I should do this more often. And that's what
Mhm.
I invite people to do. Go to the experience. Don't walk up to people and say, hey, how big is your business? Ask them what they're building. Ask them what they love to do most, what their best, who's your best employee? What makes them the best? That's the stuff that people should walk up to each other and ask, not like, how many trucks you got? I've got a few. But go to the experience, meet people that you normally would say, I did not know that I would like that person, but I do. And I'm now going to go to Ohio and visit them and see how they do stuff because I like what they're doing. I encourage people to show up at events and get out of your comfort zone and drop the blinders. And listen, if you don't know, if you're worried about meeting someone, call me, contact me through the Facebook groups, whatever, and I'll you tell me what you want to achieve, and I can probably introduce you to 14 people that'll help you. And I think everyone here owes everyone else that community vibe.
Yeah, 100%. And I will definitely say to your point, just, I mean, you and I haven't gotten where we are today without somebody helping us be introduced or going to events or just kind of stepping out of our comfort zone, right? Like that is what has gotten us where we are today. And I'm forever thankful for that. And we were put in very uncomfortable situations, but that's okay. That's part of it. And so, I just want to echo Clark's advice, go to industry events. The experience is a couple of weeks away. There's people from cleaning, inspection, marketing, restoration, assessment, safety, indoor air. Like there's so many people attending this event that you just never know how you can influence them or they can influence you and maybe help the industry evolve just a little bit more. That's what
Yeah,
industry events are all about. Also implementing new processes, procedures, thoughts, maybe even adding culture tips into your business. Maybe you're trying to figure out how to level up your culture just a little bit, or maybe you're trying to figure out, hey, I'm hitting a wall here, whether it's marketing, business management, maybe it's assessment, whatever the case may be, you're going to have the opportunity to talk to industry professionals that actually handle that stuff every day. And it's really cool to see that because this isn't just a one size fits all. It's for everybody. Whether you
yeah,
want to learn more about maybe you want to add services to your business, it's a great place to um comfortably and comfortably make yourself very vulnerable, right? To ask questions. We don't know everything, and I think that's the beauty of interacting with other industry professionals. That's all I have today. If you have any closing words, go for it, Clark. If not, we will sign off for the day.
no, just go out and do your best and bring other people with you, and you'll make it far. And also be consistent. That's probably the one thing I would tell everyone is what makes people successful, not quitting. Because everybody quits. So if you keep going, you'll probably be on sacred land by yourself. So Kayla, reach out to Kayla or me. I take calls from people I've never heard of. And I think most good people in this industry do. If you're showing up, you're hoping people are listening and calling because you're wired that way. But that's it for me. I can't wait to see you in a few weeks in Las Vegas and everybody else that might show up and be there.
Yeah, thank you so much, Clark. I'm really excited too. You said some great closing words there. I can't add to what you said, but other than, I can't wait to see you and the team in Vegas, my backyard, right? I'm super excited to
Yeah.
see everybody here and just get to see all the sessions we have going on. If you want to learn more about Clark's session, you can go to rnrmagonline.com and use the experience dropdown and see the agenda, click on the description, learn more about Clark and all of our other speakers. And if you'd like to listen to any additional episodes, you can hear us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and our social media. But as always, thank you all for tuning in. And until next time, we will see you on the next episode of Trade Talks Unlocking the Experience. Take care.